Yeah, there you go. Good evening, good afternoon, guys, wherever you are in this crazy, silly world. Tonight we have another live stream, and I'm gonna pop my guests in, and we have the usual lineup. We have Mikey. How you doing, Mikey?
Hello. I'm good. And you?
Not too bad, mate. Thank you. Our next guest is going to be Simon. Simon, how you doing?
I'm doing perfectly fine. You guys can hear me?
Absolutely. Loud and
That's
clear.
great.
And our last guest today is going to be
I don't see
China.
timer on the screen.
Hey,
see
guys!
timer
I
on
saw
the
that. I was.
Now we can't hear Bill.
I don't think we can hear Bill right now.
No.
Okay.
Let me reload.
Now we can hear you.
Here you go. You're back.
Awesome. All right, then, guys. Plug your channels. Introduce yourself for the ones that don't know who you are. Mikey, we're going to start with you. Feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us, what you're doing. Who are you, and why are you on this stream?
Yeah, this is Mikey. I'm from Shanghai. I'm a China YouTuber, and try to give you some information about how China look like, and that's it.
Sure. Awesome. Simon?
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Simon. I'm also an ordinary Chinese dude, but currently I live in Taiwan. So hopefully come back to mainland China maybe later this year. So yeah, basically I also cover some of the issues happening in China and also do some of the vlogs. So yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. We kind of lost Bill. I don't know what happened to him. He's been having unstable connection, all week. Anyway, my name is Zach. Most of you know me. I like to host these live streams. feel free to check out my channel, Zack P. Link is in the description. Feel free to subscribe as well. I make China content, life in China, food in China, snowboarding in China, cringe comedy in China. So feel free to subscribe. And tonight we are going to talk about real estate in China and in the UK. So obviously you guys are going to represent China and you're going to talk about, real estate in China. I will try to give you an insight on, the UK market and the European markets and what's going on. And we will try to compare it, see which one is better in certain aspects. And, by the end of the stream, we're going to answer some questions from the audience. So, why don't we jump in and, just explain to the audience, the people that don't really know what is real estate. What does real estate really mean? Like, in a few words, Mikey, how would you describe a real estate to someone who basically lived under a rock for the last 50 years?
I think real estate is property that whatever you invest or you spend your income to afford one to live, and that's housing, apartment. That's it.
Yeah, fairly simple. Yeah, absolutely. Simon, anything to add to this one if you want to explain what is real estate?
Well, that's pretty tricky. I'm not an expert in real estate, but I would say just basically a shelter or roof for people to live.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, a real estate is the land basically along with any buildings. That's what real estate is, in a couple of words. So we basically gonna talk about, house prices, inflation, the social status and stigma that you get if you own real estate or if you don't own real estate, both in China and in the UK and in Europe as well. So that's what we're going to talk about. And, right away, let's jump into, the price aspect of things. You can see these horror prices in bigger cities, in tier 1 cities like where Mikey is in Shanghai, Beijing as well, Shenzhen. All of these places, it's very, very expensive to buy a place because the price per square meter is very, very high. So, Mikey, you're in Shanghai, as far as I know. Can you tell the audience, what's the average price in an average neighborhood in Shanghai?
It's quite hard to give a average price. I just a couple of weeks ago, I did a video about the real estate price in a knockoff British town, which is outside of Shanghai city. Over there, you have to travel almost 1 hour and a half to get into the city center. Okay, so over there, you have a whole bunch of types of property that you can choose. You can choose a small apartment, like a small stadia, and that will cost you almost 2 million RMB, and as well as 100 square meters a big apartment that will cost you almost 4 million to 6 million around. And you also got those luxury house, 3 stores house. I forgot the price. It's almost 10 million plus. So that's give you a impressive how expensive the properties in Shanghai. And I'm living in between the outer ring road and we call it Zhonghuan, it's the middle highway.
Middle ring,
yeah, middle lifted highway. So I'm living in between. This apartment, my apartment, 90 square meters. So now it's cost almost 6 millions. So that's what I can give you the information. And in the city center, it's more like those we call it districtions, like the Jing'an districtions and the Xuhui districtions. The house pricing is go up to ridiculous, and majority of the Shanghainese like moved out from those places because before it was like old houses, now it's teared down and the new build up, but you can never afford a new build up now. So yeah, Simon, since you are also Shanghainese, do you want to add some information?
Right. So I try to maybe generalize the issue a little bit. So maybe give you a better sense. So basically, I think in Shanghai, probably the average price per meter will be around 70,000 RMB, around 70,000 RMB. If you want to live, let's say, in a fairly decent or average location, maybe inside the city. And so basically, let's say an average apartment will be around 80 square meters, then 80 times 70, probably, yeah, just like Mikey mentioned, like 6 million RMB apartment will be in, I would say, a not luxury style, but it's maybe average, a little bit above average, something like this. So if you want to go lower, yeah, for sure, there are places you can get for like 30,000 per square meter, but you will live probably fairly far away from the city center. Maybe you can in Songjiang or in some like Minhang district, or either far out. So like maybe some other, it's not even, some places they are not even considered as Shanghai, but because they are fairly close to Shanghai, so somebody, they're gonna buy apartment over there. And yeah, so basically that's the situation right now, I think.
I mean,
But
if
the price can go way higher if you want better apartment, like in like Mikey mentioned, in Jing'an or in some very CBD area, it can go all the way to, I think, 200,000, right? 200,000 RMB per square meters for those ridiculously high-end apartment.
Yeah. I mean, if you are ordinary people, you need to go to the city center to work. Even some suburb got like high tech park. If you are IT guy, you're working there, but it still costs a lot of time to travel around the city. I mean, if you are like self employment, you work remotely at home, then it's probably it doesn't matter which location you are located. But for the majority people, you find a job, you are employed, so you have to travel all around the city. Then probably you have to spend like almost 3 or 2 hours on the road if you are living in remote location. So this is the biggest problem. So yeah.
Sure. Bill, what about you? What about your city? How expensive it is, or how cheap it is, wherever you are, to buy an apartment or a house? There must be a massive delay. I think there is a huge delay between us and Bill.
Compared to Mike and Simon,
Zach, I think I also,
the place I live in is definitely way cheaper than other places, Shanghai. But no delay. No. Anyway, I'm gonna continue. So I remember like. All right, guys. Just leave me.
Oh, Bill's gone. He just froze. Anyway, let me finish up this one. Let me round it up. So in Jilin, it's actually like a ridiculously cheap compared to you guys. You can get like 100 square meter apartment for like 800,000, like less than $1 million, and that's like a very, very decent apartment. So, the price difference between like Shanghai and Jilin is just massive. I mean, I understand like Shanghai is a tier 1 city and it's a very, very developed city, but like
Yeah,
10
but
times more.
in the meantime, in Jilin, the average income is also lower, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
much lower compared to you guys.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there was a question here from Gary. Do you actually own the home, or is it like a 70-year like leash?
Simon, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I covered this topic before in one of my previous videos. So basically, because China just start opening up, so we don't have any kind of home ownership. I think before the 90s. So they just start. I would say after 19 probably 87, they start allowing to do like private home ownership. So at that time, because most of the land are owned by the government, actually private, I mean individual are not allowed to own land even today in China. So basically at that time they come up with a system. So let's see, when we sold this apartment to those citizens or individuals, let's just give them a 70 years lease. But during until I mean, even today, we still haven't come up with law and the regulation try to decide what will happen after 70 years. So basically, it's still a kind of gray zone. I would say probably the government, they are still thinking how to deal with the situation right now, because let's say for sure they won't take back the real estate apartment, right? And if they actually choose to do that, then it will be a crisis, a huge crisis. And I just want to remind you guys that the the people who actually own the most of the apartment in China, not ordinary guys, So you can think about like who actually own the apartment in China most. So they are actually the one on the top. They can actually make an impact on our society. So I don't think they will make a strategy or say policy that try to give them a negative interest. So I would say in the future they will come up with a system. Maybe let's say after 70 years, the government can choose to extend your usage. Maybe give you another 70 years by charging a small amount of fee. Or in other cases, maybe they want to use those kind of this piece of land, then maybe they will give you compensation and ask you to move somewhere else. But basically right now, it's still a gray zone. So because we just start selling private property in in the early 90s. So basically most of the land hasn't expired yet. I would say some of the land may expire later, maybe after 2 or 3 decades, but they still haven't come up with the rule, figure out what will actually happen after 70 years. So yeah.
Sure.
Mikey,
Yeah.
do
Mikey?
you have anything want to add up? Yeah.
As Simon said, this is the policy isn't very clear. What will happen after 70 years? Nobody knows, because the commercialized of the property was started from the 90s. So it's totally like 30 years or not 40 years even. So the policy isn't very clear. Nobody knows what will happen after 70 years. And before that, like before the 90s, all the apartment or the house were distributed by the organizations that you served to when before the reform, the economical reform. So like my father got a small apartment which is distributed by his factory, so you don't have to buy it before the 90s, but after the economical reform, then you need to pay money to buy it. I think before you need to pay a little bit like a monthly fee or something, but that's really fear. And this is a feature of socialism actually. So you don't need to pay money for the housing stuffs, but the resource is quite limited back to the 70s or
Correct.
60s. And all those like people who has the demands, you need to queue up, like the factory will give you some kind of score system, like how many people are there in your family, like your current like living standard, like living condition, is it poor or something. Then you got some kind of score. Then according to the score, when the factory or the enterprise, oh no, there wasn't the enterprise actually, it's just like factories, and they will build some kind of houses for their employees. And then you got some people who has the rights to say which department can distribute it to which person. So that's also created a lot of corruption, because you got people who has the power in hand can decide which house goes to someone else.
Yeah.
So that's why the reform was introduced. And I think for the first batch of the commercialization of the old houses, you just pay a very little money to buy your current apartment, to make it like a private, because before it was like owned by the factory. You are just a tenant living over there. So that's some kind of history back there. Yeah.
Sure. So we managed to get Bill back. Bill, do you still have a delay, or are you okay now? Still a massive delay, I would say.
Yeah. Anyway.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Let me know.
Yeah, we can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can hear
Is
you.
there a delay, Bill?
Yeah, I think
Oh
I
no.
can hear you this time.
Big
I think
delay.
there was a question sent by Super Turbo 2.
So while we wait for Bill to sort himself out, Simon, a super chat for you.
Okay. First of all, thanks, P, for the donation. So please elaborate on the ghost cities phenomenon and its impact on real estate prices, social costs. Thanks. Yeah, sure. We're gonna try to explain a little bit about ghost cities. I think most of our audience probably have already heard the keyword like ghost cities, right? So this is a phenomenon caused by the movement of building an entire city from the ground up, and because after the 2000, the real estate price skyrocketed in China, and a lot of local government, they find out that it is a great opportunity for them to actually to collect wealth and resource within a short period of time. Because at that time, I mean before like 2000, real estate or some of the high or decent quality apartment is really scarce in China. So there is a demand because when the middle class start getting bigger, so people try to find a better place to live. So at that time, I think everyone is trying to change their living standard. So I think, and also I think real estate is a very, I would say it's a relatively easy way for the local government to gain GDP. You know, China is if in China, if you want to be a, let's say, government official, if you want to get promoted in the future, then the GDP in your local location is definitely a one of the biggest KPIs. So basically, if you want to get promoted in China, then you will try to figure out to boost the local GDP in the area that you are in charge of. So at that time, I think all the government officials around China, they find out this magical things that is the real estate can help them to boost the economy, get more money, and then when they have money, they can start building all those public infrastructures, right? So I think that's the first motivation why they start this building the whole city from the ground up, like kind of campaign all around the country. And because some city, they don't have enough demand. So like, let's say some of the third and fourth tier city, especially up north, because they don't have those kind of like jobs and other like good education, which provide a basic background or backbone for the city. So even they do have built a lot of high-rise apartments, but because you can't find a very decent job at those cities, and also a lot of systems are, because of the political system in the north are even more corrupted than the south. So a lot of local residents in the north, they all try to move to the south looking for opportunity and also go to those big cities. So which lead those third or fourth tier cities apartments vacant. Basically, a lot of people, they will go there and buy a bunch of apartments, but actually those owners, they don't plan to stay there. So yeah, that's a huge phenomenon in China, I think. So we can go deeper and deeper. So Mike, you want to talk a little bit about ghost cities?
For those guys who just come to China, if you go to the mega city, you see like China has so many people, super populated, overcrowded, but actually, in some fourth or third tier cities, it's lacking of population because many people flood into those mega cities along the coast, but you left those small cities in like relatively low population, but they still build up a lot of new apartments. So it's the imbalance of the population and the apartment. That's what I can say. And I just want to pick up one question from my subscriber here. So
Which one
Super Turbo, so Super Turbo 2, he asked the ordinary working people afford this price in average. I mean, it is very hard for the ordinary working people nowadays in the mega city to afford apartment. What we are doing is we got parents, like 4 parents, how to call it, aid or contribute the money to their children to buy those super expensive apartments. Because in China, if you want to get married, then probably the man should own or buy an apartment to give the girl some kind of security feeling. I mean, but now, if you just look at their income, let's say in Shanghai, it's how much? 10K RMB to 15K in average.
That's like above average. I did some research. It's about 4,000 to 5,000.
Okay, let's say
it's
10K
the average monthly salary. Yeah, but most people have the misconception thinking that the average salary is above 10,000, right? But actually, in reality, we have a lot of low-class workers. They work for those like restaurants, hotel, and they make very low salary actually. But anyway, let's just assume it's 10K, right?
Oh, what happened to you?
I mean,
guys?
it's between industry to industry is. it's huge. So, but let's say give them more money to buy a house. So 10K to 15K and in hand for a man to buy like 6 million apartment, which is in a fairly okay location. You can't say it's good, because comparing to the inner ring area, that's like a suburb. But if they want to afford it, they buy such kind of like 6 or 7 million RMB apartment for their marriage. You can never afford it, right? So the thing that what we are doing is like the parents sell their own apartment and try to rent another apartment. So the parents rent apartment to and give the money what they sold their apartment to their kids to buy a new apartment. This is what my friends their parents doing, because they are not like a relatively rich family. So now you can see it's like some kind of things like suck all the fortune into that real estate industry. That costs a lot of people don't have like money to afford to travel outside of country to buy stuffs, yeah, this is what I want to say
Yeah,
to
correct.
Super Turbo 2.
Yeah. Yeah, let me just
to
add a little bit on
Sure.
the question that Mike just addressed. So in China, when people buy apartment, they don't buy it by themselves. So basically, most people, ordinary Chinese, when they buy apartment, it's usually a family decision. So unless you're like some super rich entrepreneur, like you gain your wealth by yourself. But most people, they don't have that much money even to afford the down payment of an apartment. So usually what they do is they will get support from their parents, and also because most let's say Chinese family only have one kid, and so basically if you have a wife, then you guys have 4 parents, and they will have some sort of like financial fund for you guys, so they can give it to you and let you buy the apartment or let you pay the down payment for your mortgage. So basically it's like that. It's not like average people, they barely, let's say if you just graduate from college and you make like 10K, or you can save probably, maybe let's say you can save 100,000 RMB per year, right? Then even you hit 30, then you have 800,000 RMB. You still cannot afford the down payment for some like some ordinary apartment in Shanghai. So basically, all of my friends who start buying apartment, they all get support from their family.
Sure. I just want to ask you guys, another question. It's related to this one,
Sure.
the impact on real estate prices. Like, everybody is saying that there is a housing bubble in China, and sooner or later it's going to burst. Do you think these ghost cities are driving up the prices massively? And if they do, what is the percentage that the ghost cities are involved? Like, I don't know, like 10%, or what's the price like that it goes up by?
Well, I don't think that ghost cities housing price have any impact on the housing price for the first and second tier city, because like I mentioned before, I won't recommend anyone to buy real estate in those ghost city, because they are just piece of like junk, I can say, put it this way, because we got so much demand, so much supply, but we don't have any demand at all, because all those cities, they have very low public infrastructure to support the city to function properly. Yeah, they may have like wide roads and some of the facility, but if you think about like your kids' education, whether they have good hospital around it, and also if you can find a decent job in those cities. That's very questionable. So I don't think those places housing price will actually have an impact on the first tier city, because you need to remember like in China, the development between first tier city and those fourth and third tier cities are extremely unbalanced, or like there's a huge gap. So most people are wealthy or educated kids, they all come to those first tier cities, so which create that very high demand. So that's why the first tier city, the housing price has become so high, it can even outprice some of the mega city across the world. But if you take a look at some of the ghost city, the apartment price is actually pretty cheap. It's like I know some of the ghost city, they have those tiny apartment. It only costs you about like less than 50,000 RMB per apartment, but nobody gonna get it, because once you get it, your money just gonna go stuck there, right? Yeah, Mikey.
Well,
do you think
for 50,000
that's the case?
RMB, you know, I might consider buying an apartment for 50K, just for
You can
shits
go
and giggles.
do some search on Lianjia. You know Lianjia, it's like the real estate Taobao shop. So go to Lianjia and go to some of the cities. Let's say, what's the name of the city they mentioned like last year on social media? Some of the dude actually they bought a apartment in the city up north. I forgot the name, but actually he bought it for like 40,000 RMB or like 50,000 RMB. I'm not sure, but basically he ended up losing money, and then he after like 3 or 4 months he decided to sell the apartment for a lower price, because he basically, first of all, the infrastructure is not very good, and second of all, basically you can't find any decent job in those places.
Yeah. Another interesting question, which is related to housing and, you know, people living in big cities and small cities. How many young adults live with parents in and out of these cities? Is it due to the cost of living or to help out the family? Personally, I will answer it from my perspective, if you guys don't mind. I think it's just, you know, tradition, really, like how Chinese society functions. And, you know, single young adults, they live with their family at least until they get married, because, you know, one, it's cheaper. Two, why should they live on their own when they can stay at home for free? Like, you know, I think it's a Western thing that, you know, people want to like move out as soon as possible, like leave their parents and family behind and be independent. But in China, it's not really the case. I mean, there are positives and there are negatives. Like, a positive is that, you know, the living costs are much lower. But one of the negative things is that you don't really have a private life. Like, you know, if you want to have like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something like that, you don't really take that person home, especially in China, like that. So that's definitely a negative, that your private life is compromised. But the positive thing is, you know, the living costs. Do you guys agree, or do you want to add anything to this one?
Yeah, I mean, without talking about the social environment and only talk about if the young adults want to stay in the home with their parents, it's quite difficult, because I know in Sweden, at least, if you are a young guy, you want to move out if you are getting like 20 or 18 or whatever. Then probably if you got a job or something, then you just rent a house, or if you really want to have one, then you can take a loan from the bank, and the house that you're trying to buy isn't that really expensive. So which means if you get a regular job, the income is okay, then as a young adults, you can pay the down payment, because the down payment is also far less than the down payment that we have to pay in China. I think in Sweden it's 15%, and but in Shanghai you have to pay 40% or something, right? So that's the social environment in different countries create this kind of different how to say, different way that you can operate, because in China, as Zach said, to live with parents is the most cheapest way to survive. But that creates a lot of issues even between the generations, because you, like young people, you want to freedom, and the Chinese parents are very how to say, want to guide which direction you go, and your behavior and the lifestyle even. So yes, in China, majority of the young generation live with their parents, and I think before the marriage, you wouldn't even think about move out, right? So, some people do, but if you move to another city, then probably you have to handle everything by yourself. But as Shanghainese, like we Shanghainese think, oh, this is the best city in this country. So a few Shanghainese want to move to other cities, maybe move abroad, but you really
Right.
rare see like one Shanghainese move to Tibet or Xinjiang. So that's what I'm going to say.
Sure.
So yeah, let me just add one more thing on this question. So basically, I think when we try to answer this question, we also need to take into consideration of where this young adult currently lived, right? If let's say he is from Shanghai, like Mikey and me, then probably we won't move out until we plan to get married. First of all, the first reason is that the real estate price in Shanghai is so high. So basically, it's not a reasonable or a financially a wiseable idea to live by yourself, because it generates a lot of cost. And also, if you live with your parents, they can do a lot of stuff for you. They cook for you. Sometimes they do laundry for you. So it can save you a lot of time. And the second reason is that in Chinese tradition, yes, especially nowadays, only because of the single child policy, most parents they expect to take care of their children. So, but if you talk about like if the guy he is from a fourth or third tier city, I don't think he will have much option if he want to find a let's say decent job, right? If you have lived in China, you know we have probably millions of those delivery guy riding scooter around the city. Most of them are not from those big city. Most of them they are from those like small town, small village, and third and fourth tier city. They try to improve their lifestyle, so they move those big city to find jobs. So they will inevitably live in a separate place from their parents. So, but those people they probably won't be able to rent a independent apartment by themselves. They probably will live in a place with a bunch of roommates, and so yeah. So that's the situation. I think if I would say people from the first tier city because they tend to stay in their city, so they probably will stay with their parents unless they are super rich. They got like multiple apartments. And but people from the fourth and third tier city, because they have to find a job, or either they go to a college, then they can't live with their parents if they want to get a job in the first tier city, right?
Yeah, I mean, I and Simon, we are actually quite detached from those like labor worker
Correct.
and migrant workers, and I was in those like city suburb villages, and I think those villages are for those labor workers, and the living condition was really, I can't say it's really poor, but it's not a ideal place to live actually. And if you from like a ordinary I don't know, middle class Shanghai family, and because you do have a relatively comfort home, you can live with your parents. So if you want to move out, you want to find something like similar living condition. You wouldn't think, oh, I'm going to live in those little crap villages, right? You are looking for like a small apartment, well renovated, and that will cost you around like 8,000 to 12K for rent actually. So if you compare to the income, then every month you just pay your rent, right? So this is some addition information.
Sure. And to be fair, to add on the price a little bit, like in Jilin, if you want to get like a 1 bedroom, 1 living room, 1 bathroom, kind of like very small apartment, we're talking like, maybe 30, 40 square meters, probably 30. You can get those for like 500 RMB
Okay.
a month. So
That's
I mean,
that's a
those
good
are
price.
very, very cheap, and it's literally just for you to go in and crash. But it's a roof over your head. So even those apartments are very cheap. But I'm having a wild guess that those apartments in Shanghai and tier 1, tier 2 cities would be much more expensive.
I mean, if you are a personality like I don't know how to call it. You want to experience the tough life, then you ignore those like poor condition, and then probably it's okay for you. But I can guarantee the majority, like 80% of this the middle class or those college students wouldn't even think about it. So for the average young generation, if they are from a relatively okay family, they will just if they want to move out, they have to pay relatively high money. I think 500 it's not in the scope actually.
Sure. Okay, so let's let's move on to the next one. And this one from Super Turbo 2 is actually related to the next like pointer that we have. And thank you, Simon, for coming up with the pointers again tonight. Does no one consider renovating these old village houses? I'm sure it can be changed for the better. And how is this related to our next point? We're going to talk about the quality of these apartments and houses in China, because there are some videos on YouTube and Bilibili and Tortilla and all of these places where you can see like really like crappy like apartments with really like cheap materials, and how it's basically just crumbles into pieces. Do you guys think that Chinese apartments, they lack quality, or is it just an odd like occurrence?
I can say it first.
Sure.
In Sweden, I bought an apartment which was built in the 1940s, I think, or 1930s. I forgot. But the building is really solid, and I can see it's a little bit old, but you have those maintenance work like which is going on like each for 4 years or 3 years. They will do the maintenance work to paint the wall and try to change the window, whatever it is. It's covered in your monthly pay actually. So in China, like my auntie bought a apartment in the city center. Now it's cost like 10 million in 2008. And just this weekend, I went there. Now I saw the wall is falling, and you see those cracks on the surface of the building, And when you get into the building, you see those like painted wall fall down, and the elevator isn't work. Someone broke the button of the elevator. Nobody cares, and so this is this shows the quality of the building in China, and if you compare to Sweden specifically, I see the quality is quite poor, and you spend so much money, which is actually it's not worth to buy. If you consider like 97 1930 to now, it's almost like 1 century. And if you want to see those apartments built during 2000 in the next century, I think probably it's already gone. It's teared down already. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
I kind of agree
Simon?
with Mikey. Correct. I think I 100% agree with Mikey. I would say mainly, I think there are two issues of that. The first issue is that I would say, uh, especially for the apartment built before 2000, actually, right now, it also applies. Most of the construction workers, they don't have a solid education background, so they don't know how to actually make the best practice building those, whether it's an apartment or a house. Actually, just last year, my uncle, he got a new warehouse, so he hired a bunch of people to build a new warehouse for him. But he spent probably 2 or 3 million RMB on building those warehouse. But just this year, some of the floor has some of the trouble. There are also cracks and like broken pieces here and there. So I would say, because the people who work for the those like building construction workers, they don't have a solid background, so they kind of don't you know meet those kind of standard when those building were firstly built. So which lead to a lot of problem later on. And also the second reason is that in China, people just don't expect to pay more money to fix those problems after they got the apartment. So they think like buying property should be a one-time fee. So that leads to the situation that even there's a broken elevator or there's some cracks on the wall, but when the like let's say you live in a apartment complex, then the apartment complex like center, they try to raise some money to fix it. A lot of like I would say some of the apartment owners, they don't want to pay for fixing those apartments. So that
Yeah.
also is one of the
I
issues,
mean,
right?
yeah, I mean, the quality of the apartment isn't a very obvious thing that you can see when you deliver the apartment, because when it's new, you look like oh, everything is okay. You wouldn't use a ham to try to crack it, right? But by the time going, and can you guys hear me?
Sure. We're still
Yeah.
here.
So by time going, it wouldn't take too long time that you realize that the quality is so poor. Like the ceiling of the apartment, like you can it's too thin. Then if somebody else like your neighbor above you walking, then you can hear their steps. And you know the wall is not a very good quality to isolate the cold and the heat. So these kind of things. So it takes time to realize, oh, I bought a relatively crap apartment. But at
Yeah.
that time, well, what you can do is nothing, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and the other thing is, like, when it comes to apartments in China, like, from my understanding, they go for looks more than they go for quality. Like they want it to look like, very nice, very pretty, like very modern, but then it's basically going to crumble into pieces in like 10 years. And somebody pointed out in the audience that he or she guesses it's because of the corruption in order to save money on material. And that is something that I actually talked about in one of my latest videos, like intellectual property and fake alcohol in China. Like these people, they are really trying to save money on these things, but they don't really realize that they are playing with lives when it comes to like building an apartment. Like if you build it from like crappy material and it's not stable and it's not sustainable, that place is gonna like collapse and fall apart, and it can actually kill people. So
Of course, like
yeah.
several years ago, I think it's 10 or
Oh, we lost Mikey. Did we lose Mikey? I think we did. Simon, would you like to?
hello.
Oh,
Can you guys hear me?
Mikey's back. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So in Shanghai, there was a neighborhood or community just close to where I'm living, and the whole building was like collapsed. If Simon remember that,
I think
it was
I
a big
remember.
news.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
I think
Yeah.
they when I don't know how to call it. They need to sting a pole. How to call it? 打桩. They didn't
The
dig it
foundation, I
into.
think.
Yeah, when they built the foundation, they didn't do a solid work. So that's why it caused a lot of issues, especially when you have like a 20-story high building.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, hey, Zach, can you go back to the previous question? I think we
Sure.
haven't addressed that one yet. So basically, what I remember is that he is asking that why people in the rural area don't renovate those apartments, right?
Sure,
Or
let me
those
find it for
houses.
you.
They look really crappy. But I think the main reason, first of all, the people who are still stuck in those rural areas, they don't have money. So at most, they can paint the wall and make it look shiny from outside. But when you walk inside, they have those like raw concrete wall, and they probably don't have a good air conditioning, and also maybe it has a very small TV. So that's what I have experienced when I went back to my grandparents' hometown. They live in a small village near Suzhou. So then if you go into those like local residents house, you will see like the house inside is super crappy. They got like very old, like probably 50 or 60 years furniture, and from the outside it looks pretty decent. They paint their wall, but I think people, especially the older generation, they want to save face, so they will try to, because first of all they don't have a lot of money in the beginning, so they would rather choose to use those money to paint the wall to make it looks better, so they can have make people feel like that they are not losing face, in order to buy actually stuff to decorate their inside. So that's the issue, I think. So first, just reiterate the answer that first of all, the people who live in those old village, they don't have money, because if they're still stuck in the old village, most the younger generation, they would tend to find job elsewhere. And the second of all, because they have this notion that they don't plan to spend more money on renovation or like refurbishing the stuff they have. So that's why you lead to a situation that in China, we don't have those like beautiful looking village. If you go to United Kingdom, that's the thing I find very interesting. When I went to the UK, you find those very beautiful village, right? Like those farmers, they have those beautiful green, huge lawn and nice cottage. stuff like that. But in China, you barely find, I would say you won't be able to find a single decent village like this. Sometimes you can find
Zero.
one, but those
Zero.
are national
I think it's zero.
public attraction site. You go to Wuzhen, you can actually find some of the decent like cottage or those decent village, but those
Yeah, but
are
then
owned
again,
by the
it's
national
built for
government.
looks. It's
Yeah,
built for looks.
they are built for look. It's nothing like something.
Oh, Simon. What happened to Simon?
Yeah.
Oh dear. But yeah, like we just said, like, you know, those apartments are built for looks mostly, while as in the UK, people actually live at those places, like those cottages and you know, farms and those places. And you know, a very, very expensive place in the UK right now is the Cotswolds, and like Oxfordshire. Like those are very, very, very expensive places. I mean, obviously London is a different ball game. Like I don't actually know anyone from my circle of friends that owns a place in London, because it's just ridiculously expensive. So it's for an average person like you, Mikey, or me, it's almost impossible to buy a place in London. And Jack Black just pointed out that the UK real estate is terrible for first-time buyers at the moment. It's never been good, but especially now it is really, really bad, especially with all the mortgage rates. And you know, first-time buyers, it's very hard for them to jump through all the hoops to be able to buy a house and get a mortgage, because the banking system and the mortgage system makes it like, you know, 10 times harder than what it really should be in the UK.
Really?
Like I've been looking into getting, you know, a place in the UK in the next, like, you know, 5 to 7 years. But
Okay.
every single time I look, and you know, I'm trying to compare like prices and mortgage rates and all of these things, I'm less like convinced that I should actually get this. Like I'm thinking, you know, maybe I should just save my money, take it to a different country, like in
Is that
Italy
is that because only in London, in the big city, if you go to like a relatively small town, can you afford it, or can you get?
See, that's the thing. Like you go to like a small place, like in the Cotswolds, there are like very small towns and villages, but you still pay like, you know, 4, 5, 600,000 pounds for like, you know, a small cottage or like a small like village house, and that's just a ridiculous price. So you know, it's very, very difficult to be able to buy anything as an average person. And you know, the Cotswolds is a beautiful place in the UK and England, but it's so like overhyped. Like everybody thinks it's like a fairy tale. It is really nice, but it's not, you know, £500,000 nice. So you know, I was just starting my thought on the house prices in some parts of Italy, because they started doing this where they give out, well, they don't give out, they sell, you know, old houses for like €1 or $1. But you need to do like a certain amount of investment to be able to buy this. So you need to sign like a contract that in 3 years time you're gonna invest at least 25,000 and you're gonna renovate the place that you bought for so cheap. So that's one way to boost the economy and, you know, make the real estate like market go upwards again. But it's only like a temporary thing, because it's not going to last
Actually, yeah.
forever, in my opinion. Oh, what happened to Simon? And we also have a lovely guest.
Okay, I'm back.
Hi, Simon.
I think because today I used a different setup, so my phone is like using the headphone while also charging wirelessly, but I think the temperature got too high up, so it forced me to shut down for a while.
Sure. So while you were doing your technical things, a lovely guest managed to join us. I don't know how he got the link here. He is the one and only Crime, aka Prime, in China. How you doing, Corey?
Good. Okay.
So, elaborate a little bit on U.S. house prices, the real estate market, and what's the scoop?
Oh, first, like, can Simon over here, can you finish like what you were saying? Because actually, I was interested in it too. So I kind of, if you can.
Let Simon
Okay, so
finish
where
then.
were I? I kind of forgot actually. I was talking about
the villages and the cottages that they have in China that look like
Oh,
the
yeah.
British ones.
So, yeah, in China, you never find those kind of beautiful village. Usually, you find those like crappy village, which is in the process of being teared down. So I think there are several, I would say, reasons behind that. The first of all, like I just mentioned, people, they have money, they already moved out, right? They find a better place to live. And the second of most people end up stuck in those places are like old, very old people. They retire, they don't have a good job, they don't have money. Basically, they don't have any resource to fix the problem. And third of all, and even if you have the money, it's not advisable to fix the issue. All the people living there, they kind of expect they will get let's say move out by the government so they can get some compensation or either get better apartment in the future. So it's kind of actually sad because in China, when you travel to China, you try to expect to see those traditional buildings, those cottage, those Jiangnan style house. But I would say in the future, China, you won't see any of these because all those buildings got teared down. The thing that left is built or owned by the government as a, let's say, like national park or something like this. So that's the thing. When I was in United Kingdom, I feel that was very amazing that you guys can keep all those like old places very intact, and also all those small cottages are owned by ordinary female guys or girls over there. So, but in China, probably no. It's quite complicated, and the situation just yeah. So basically, it's very sad. In the future, you probably will see less and less those kind of villages. So, and also in China, we have those the movement of urbanization, right? So now the government are become more and more how to say, and they are getting smarter. So in the future, like in the old time, like 10 or 20 years ago, when they tear down your house, they will give you a house. But now they will never give you a house. They will give you like maybe 3 or 4 apartments. So you guys probably already expect why they do that, because it will save a huge amount of land for them, right? If you get a like 20 or 30 store building, then you can accommodate more people with a smaller piece of land. So that's why urbanization is so profitable for the government, because they usually can get a much bigger land by building a high-rise apartment for those villagers. So I would say that, I think in the beginning, the villagers, they are also expecting to get demolished and move to those apartments because they don't have the money to improve their living standard. So in Shanghai, actually, if you are some local residents who have a let's say house in those old village, you can actually live pretty comfortably if you let's say your village got demolished and the government tried to move you somewhere else. Let's say some of my classmates, their village got demolished and he got like 4 apartments of course, it's not owned by himself. He and his parents. So they got like 4 apartments in Shanghai, in the Hongqiao area. Hongqiao is like the future CBD for Shanghai. So basically, he will probably he can live in a comfortable life if the housing price keep that way. But I think it is also sad that because in the future nobody actually own any piece of real land. They all own those like tiny or even it's a big apartment, but it's an apartment on those high-rise buildings.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to correct Simon. I have different opinion. In China, if you try hard to find some beautiful villages, I think you will find it. The difference is just because in the other country, let's say in Denmark, if you go to the suburb, then you see the most of the villages are beautiful and well organized. They're greenish, not in the winter, sorry. But if you in China, if you go to suburb or go to like remote area, not all of those places are like really Chinese style beautiful gardens and bamboos, and you will find like 80% of them are like what I showed in my video. So but if you try hard, then you will find awesome authentic Chinese villages. Maybe it's a touristy destination. Otherwise, those Wumaos will say, "How dare you say there's no beautiful villages in China?"
Yeah, once again, there are some like very beautiful Jiangnan style village in China, but first of all, those village. Let's say I just heard like recently the founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, I think he owns some of the village in Jiangnan region, which costs probably billions of like RMB. But if you are an ordinary Chinese dude, if you want to live, let's say, in a decent village with a fairly decent price, no, it's not gonna happen, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump on to Corey and let's gang up on him. Corey, what's happening with you? What can you add to this conversation? Explain a few things from your perspective, from the American side.
So I want to say that like when I had first went to China, of course I'm married to a Chinese woman, and I went to her hometown, and they had the older style, the older style buildings there. Her parents, her family doesn't live in one of those old traditional style buildings, but it's still an older building by the standards of Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Beijing, Shanghai. And I thought it was hilarious because she was like, I just asked her, how many rooms are how many bedrooms are in the house, and she was like counting on her fingers, and she gets up to like 12 or 13, and I'm like, you have a 13 bedroom home or something? Like, how the hell is that possible? And I thought like something was like lost in translation or something. And come to find out, like nothing was lost in translation. It's just like I when you live in the countryside in China, like it's possible to have an extremely big, like two-sided home, even where multiple families live in. And so I remember like walking up like 3 flights of steps and just like, one family. And I was like, holy shit, this is like a 14 bedroom, 7 bathroom home. And in the bottom was like a convenience store. And I was like, holy crap, because like I lived in Guangzhou, and in Guangzhou, like you get nothing like that. You get like your and to be fair, it's still good sized compared to some other places. Of course, everyone knows like Hong Kong, right? But You know, I thought like my 3-bedroom apartment in Guangzhou was huge, and then I went to my wife's family's home, and I was like, I was flabbergasted. I was just couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I thought it was wrong. So I thought that was really interesting. I've only been to one of those really traditional villages in China once. I've only been to one. And it was really cool. It was really cultural and things. It was kind of touristy, um, you know, because it's hard to preserve that stuff too. I think that's perhaps the other thing is in America. You know, it's not uncommon to live. Um, it's not uncommon to live in a neighborhood where the homes are 100 years old, right? You know, it's so common here. I think maybe too, perhaps it's just difference in culture where a lot of Americans like want to preserve the old building and put new things inside of it, whereas if maybe in China people just assume, you know, tear it down and build something brand new. Um,
Uh,
yeah,
be-
so I don't know if
because
it's difference.
I mean, because the countryside houses, you know, back to the 80s or 90s, I went to like Shandong province. I went to my cousin's relatives. They did they are living in the countryside of I think it was Yantai. It's a really remote area of you know, Chinese village. Those houses are put together by, I don't know how to, it's clay, like it's like
Mm,
a kind of earth. Y- you don't have brick. They don't have like bricks and you know,
mm,
sands and this kind of. They use the clay to build the walls and they didn't even have a glass in on the window, and I can remember. So those, you know, houses are not variable to kept, right? If you want to
mm,
build something new, you just wipe it out, right?
mm.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
All right, then, guys, let's move on. There are two more questions. Then we can wrap this one up, I'm guessing. So, B just said, sorry, late to the show. Is it troublesome for a foreigner to purchase a home in China?
Yes,
Now,
I
you
think
guys
so.
can tell me from a Chinese perspective what's the process of buying a home, and probably Corey can add to it as well. I don't know if you owned the place that you lived in China, but you know, then I can add what's the extra that a foreigner needs to do. So, what would be a normal process, Mikey, to buy a place in China?
Uh, sorry. Actually, I don't have too much experience because my father like did everything for me, and I was in the real estate deal center. As a Chinese, I think you need to first get contact with those agents, those real estate dealers. Then you are looking for uh, some houses around some certain area. But if you have like old houses, you need uh, to do a double contract to make sure when you sell your house and you at the same time you buy in the new house, you know, if you miss the time, like they put like certain time in between. Once you finish the deal to sell out your old house, you have to you know, buy in the new house. Otherwise, like because the prices always go up uh, back to the years. Now I think it is relatively okay, and but the whole process. Maybe my dad is the proper person for you. I think Simon, maybe you know, or
What what was the question? I actually didn't catch. How to
as a
buy a
So
ordinary
property in China?
Chinese, I think you hire these brokers to do the operation for you, but you still need to do a risk.
Generally speaking, you have to go through a real estate agent. Otherwise, the whole
Yeah,
process is quite complicated. You have to, first of all, if you want to, let's say, buy a apartment or you want to sell your apartment, usually you have to go through those big real estate agent. So first of all, you find an agent
I
you
think
talk
the
with
big
them, and then they find either the seller or buyer, and then you have to go to it's the apartment building like department, and then you have to go through the contract, and also if you want to let's say get a mortgage, or the other person who want to buy the apartment from you want to get a mortgage, then they also need to
yeah. There are two
go
kinds
to the
of
bank and then get a contract as well.
there are two kinds of mortgages for Chinese people. One is the 公积金. Simon, do you know how to call it in English?
It's like a national. I don't think it will work in a direct translation, but I think it's a national fund which you pay monthly
I
through
think
your salary.
I think this
right?
I think this is the house fund that you
Yeah.
can take a loan from the
Yeah.
government. They give you relatively lower interest. It's like around the 4%, but
Interest rate,
it has certain amount that you can.
It's still high. It's still ridiculously high.
Yeah, I
compared to
know.
other,
I know 4% is still
country, right?
very high. But if you compare to the
Because
commercial,
yeah,
if you compare to
commercial
the
is like
commercial,
5%, I think.
I think before I think it's 6% or 6.0.
That's
I can't remember.
extremely high.
Yeah. So,
Because
but
my friend, he
for the
got an
house
apartment,
funding, yeah. So for the house funding, you can one person maximum. You only can take like I think 400K RMB, which is the maximum. If you have like two couples, then you can take maximum how much 800,000 as a maximum. But to cover the rest part of the house, you need to take a commercial loan for sure. And in China, maybe something else. You take a loan from your relatives, and you don't give a lot of interest. But these things nowadays is few and few, because we have like banks and can give you a loan.
Sure.
So
Sure. And the other thing is, like, so that's the Chinese side, and that's already very, very complicated. Like, as it is, it's very complicated. Now,
yeah,
if you jump into a foreign person's shoes, it's 10 times harder. Like, yes, you need to get an agent. You need to jump through all of these hoops. And, because you're a foreigner in China, you need to provide, certain like papers. Like, for example, the money that is coming into China is not like, dirty money. It's not like you're using this for money laundering and all of these things. So you need to prove a lot of things, that this money is like legit, it's clean, that you're going to be a long-term person. You need to be like legit with your residence permit, with your visa, with your job, with and even the loans as well. Like, a foreigner can't really just walk into a bank and be like, give me 2 million RMB because I want to buy a house. You need a Chinese person basically to do it for you. And that's why, many foreigners fell into this trap where they marry the Chinese girl, they use the foreigner's money to buy an apartment, buy a house, and this Chinese girl or man just vanished, disappeared, sold the house, packed up everything, gone. Because on the paper, it's actually the Chinese person's name that is on it. It's not the foreigners, because it's very, very, very hard and very, very difficult to put a foreigner's name onto a housing paper as an owner. Like, you can rent houses, that's fine. Like, nobody cares about that. But to actually make a foreigner an apartment or a house owner or a homeowner, it's super, super difficult. Like, it's 10 times harder than what it is for you guys.
Yeah.
Corey, anything to add to that one? Did you own the house or the apartment that you had in China, or was that a rental? Or
yeah, so we did have ownership of an apartment and something that we had rental. Our rental was given to my wife, not given to my wife, but at a discount. Her parents helped her pay for it. And the apartment that we were living in, we were purchasing. And like for me to have done that alone, would have. I guess it is possible. It's possible on paper, but the realization that you're going to actually get it done is quite unrealistic. So, kind of as you said, it was done by my wife. It was done by an agent. So I can't go into detail and say how hard or difficult it was, because honestly, I didn't do the paperwork. I provided paperwork, and we used an agent. But obviously I can't speak in for Chinese people and say how hard it is for them to get a home. So
yeah.
I can't comment on that really. But it's not easy. So yeah.
When you deal with those brokers, and if you are foreigner, it's quite hard, because those apartments, they are for selling. If you are Chinese, then you always ask them, or try to make a good relationship with them, and try to let them tell you some details or hidden information about the apartment, because like some houses used by some people and dead in the room, and Chinese people don't think it's a good place to live, and it's hard to resell the house, and some quality of the apartment. Then you need to be a native person to understand all the tricks in in such a big deal, right? But as a foreigner, if you don't speak Chinese well, I mean, you can speak, but if you are not that close to those brokers, they probably 80% wouldn't tell you anything negative, or the real situation of the house that you are going to buy. I think it happens also in the other countries, like my experience back in Sweden, and I was made a deal with in Sweden they do this like auction, hidden auction. It's not like a publicly you see, but those brokers deal with the auction, and we made a deal like virtually, and we made the deal, but I didn't sign the deal within the time. It's not me. We made the deal on Friday, and I said, okay, the broker said they are going to walk off or something, but and then I say it's okay. We can make the deal like 2 days after on Monday, but within these 2 days, some other people step in and make a higher price than me. They want to get that apartment as well. So that cost me like almost 150K more to bid to be the highest bidder. So that's I mean, this is also happen in the other countries, but this is something, if a foreigner try to deal with, it's really hard, especially you do have like certain language barriers.
Sure. All right then, guys. Last question, and we'll try to keep this one short, because this one doesn't need much explanation. Why is it important for a Chinese man to own a house or an apartment before marriage? Why is this important? Anyone would like to go first on this one?
Because traditionally in the Chinese culture, when a guy and a girl get married, they always thought that the girl is married to the guy. So basically, it's like the girl will join the guy's family. So that's what traditionally Chinese think. So when you have a daughter, and when you try to give your daughter away to somebody, then you always expect she will end up in a better family, right? Maybe married to a guy who got an apartment, got a decent job. So basically, the situation is basically because of the culture, I would say. But
Sure.
I also think in Shanghai, I think in first tier city, it's a little bit different because people are more open-minded. So a lot of my classmates and schoolmates and friends, when they get married, usually the girl's side family, they will also try to make some of the support, because everybody only has one child, so they consider girls and boys are the same. So some of my friends, they before they get married, the both sides family will put probably equal value of money to support the mortgage, and then under the real estate they bought, it will be written two names. So the boy also and also the girl.
Sure. Mikey, anything to add to this one in a few words, few sentences?
I was answering my subscriber. What was the question?
Okay.
Sorry.
So the question was, why is it important for a Chinese man to have a house or an apartment before marriage?
Oh, because your mother-in-law push you too hard to to have.
That's a more direct answer. Yeah.
Yeah. You got those mother-in-laws really push you, and if you want to marry with my daughter, you have to have like 1, 2, 3, 4 those materials, especially the apartment to live. You cannot have like a small crappy place. Say this is our home. You need to consider the face thing, and if you don't have it, then you lose the opportunity to marry with the girls. It's the very reality thing. Someone like can get in a relationship for 1, 2, 3 years, but finally they broke up because of the this apartment, and even the marriage wedding ceremony, all these things which is based on money and the fortune, and also this is kind of facing. If the mother-in-law think you give her face because she can show off in all the relatives, and you just get succeed. But otherwise it's really hard. If you don't have an apartment, then even when someone want to introduce you, they will ask you current situation. If you don't have a relatively good income, nice car, big apartment, then it's really hard for a man to get a wife. So that's
Sure. Corey, anything to add to this one? Not much. I mean, you guys explained it very well.
I've never been Chinese before, so you've never been Chinese, so I can't really comment on what it's like for Chinese people.
It's really just like, you kind of have to do it because it's like the social norm. But like you said, Simon and Mikey, like in bigger cities it's not so much anymore. In smaller cities, like for example, like Jilin and third and fourth tier cities, it's still a thing because apartments and houses are still like relatively cheap compared to the big cities. So absolutely.
Yeah, I'll say that, like in Guangzhou, like all the guys that I knew, like maybe like 5% of them actually had a house, that they were married and actually owned, because not many like 25-year-olds own their own house in Guangzhou. Like it's just not possible. So I don't think as many women in the big cities are going to expect that anyways. I don't think it's possible. And I noticed a lot of them that did have homes that were like from Guangzhou, maybe they would have a home in say Foshan or something, and they would rent an apartment in Guangzhou and have the intention of later on moving to Foshan or something like that. It's just not. It's not realistic, really.
Those like a leftover woman stories, right? If you are like well-educated woman and you have a pretty nice job, you are looking for someone else who is better than you, maybe can afford relatively better life with you, and but it's really hard because in this country only like the top elites can give such like a living standard, maybe, and maybe the media's only push those like super awesome life, and so yeah.
Sure. All right then, guys. Let's wrap this one up. You can do a little plug for your channel, I guess. Then we can call it a day. We passed the hour and a half thing, and we were planning to do it for 90 minutes. So I think we're still on time. So, Mikey, why don't you plug your channel? Tell us what's your next video gonna be. What do you do on your channel? Where can they find you? How can they subscribe to you?
Yeah, so China Uncle Mikey channel isn't very popular at the moment, and I hope I can ramp up more subscribers. So I'm making videos about China. I don't, this time I want to say I don't want to only talk about the issues. I also want to show some beautiful sceneries and travel destination, which is really good actually for a foreign expat or anyone come to China. Especially you want to come to Shanghai, then maybe you can explore those places. So this is what I'm planning to. So in next month, in October, I'll do a trip to Jiangsu province, to Zhejiang province. So I'll provide some like travel or talking videos in the other cities. So at that time, I hope you guys will enjoy. Yeah.
Sure. Awesome. So link is going to be in the comment section in the description, guys, for Mikey's channel. Simon?
Hey, this is Simon. So currently I live in Taiwan, and usually I would do video related somewhat about China and some of the views I think about China. And yeah, basically that's it. Now I will probably do more video related to Taiwan, but also it's probably the same. I mean, Taiwan, mainland China, they share the same culture, same background, just with a slightly different system. So yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. Again, link is going to be in the description for Simon's channel and in the comment section as well down there. Corey, you joined us a little late. You were kind of like the filler for Bill, but do you want to explain to the viewers what's your next video? What are you gonna do? What's the future and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, sure. I guess since I'm the filler for Bill, you could say I'm the biller. So I'm the biller. Yeah, no, just future videos. My Shill Wednesday will be my next video. Probably won't do anything since I've been streaming so much today and yesterday. New channel in the works with different kind of content that I'll be talking about fairly soon, kind of trying to keep it under wraps, more travel related, kind of waiting on the Corona thing, to kind of end and be done with here in America so that I can get back. I have a big travel destination going to a place that Simon actually knows very well. So that is a big clue, I guess, there. And hopefully once all this Corona stuff gets done with, I can do that. So yeah, Prime in China, check my channel out. That's all I can say, really. Yeah.
Awesome, good stuff. So as the last one and as host of the show, my next video is going to be about racism, and it's going to involve the university professor that got sacked in the US. And I'm going to say, a very, very interesting word in Hungarian that might freak some people out. So make sure that you subscribe to my channel. You can go over to my Patreon. You can get the early access for that video if you fancy doing it. Definitely subscribe to my channel because I'm trying to catch up to Mikey with 1,000 subs. So it would be nice to do that. Link is in the description for everyone and in the comment section as well. And yeah, that is it for tonight, guys. I mean, I hope you enjoyed this live stream. It was definitely an interesting one. And, sometimes we can just pick topics like this. It doesn't need to be about, Trump, CCP, and
Yeah.
shilling and all of these things. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's
true.
better to have a topic like this and talk about different aspects of life in China and different approaches that we have towards it. So yeah, I personally really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did as well. And yeah, that is it for tonight. So thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.
Cheers, guys.